there is an energy that emanates from the presence of God that fills the universe, kind of like the Force in Star Wars. It's in everything, it's through everything, it gives life to everything, right? Like the Force. And I believe that that actually is real, that exists. We don't call it the Force, but it goes by other names. I mean, the name that I would use for it would be the light of Christ. This pure, really what it is it's love, I think. It's unconditional love that fills the universe, that keeps all the planets in their orbits, that keeps our hearts beating and keeps our bodies functioning and so on. So there's that. But then in combination with that is this massive intelligence that is within each one of us. And it is the I am, if you will, within each one of us that is, I believe, is capable ultimately of becoming like God. I think that we all are gods and goddesses in embryo, and that we ultimately have that capacity. Just like an acorn falls from an acorn tree, well, it might not look like much now, but 100 years from now, it might be gigantic, right? And so I think that one of the most exciting things about our being is that we have this nature. It's who we really are, I believe. We have come from a divine place, and we have this ability to grow to an infinite degree and expand, and that's why we're happiest when we're creating. You look at people who retire and then they stop creating, and then pretty soon they're dead, in a year or two, right? Because that drive to create is so powerful. Well, it should be, because God is our Father and He is the Creator, right? And so,
It's
so
a
that's
sacred
exciting.
force.
One of the interesting things that bears on this discussion is an experience that I had. For a long time, I used to teach what everybody else taught, and that was that we use about 10% of our intelligence consciously, right? And the rest of our intelligence is doing something else. So after quite a few years of teaching that, I started thinking, we're all so dumb. Maybe we're using 5%. That makes more sense to me. Okay, so I taught that for a number of years. And then one day, it was only like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I had the realization that I had never really asked about this. How much of our intelligence do we use consciously? And so I prayed about this and started testing to see what kind of an answer I could get. And the answer that I got still kind of blows my mind, because but you can try this yourself, or any of you that are listening or watching, if you know how to do this muscle testing, you can ask and see what answer you get. What I got was that we use 0.000000001%. Think about that. That's 8 zeros after the decimal point and a 1. That's how much of our intelligence.
As a percent as well. Like, that's two other zeros as a decimal. That is, geez,
it's
Louise.
Infinitesimally tiny. And so what does that mean? Well, I don't know. I don't know completely, but I think that I think we spend a long, long time preparing to come here to this world. And I think that these subconscious minds that we have, I think they're very, very involved in creating millions of new cells every minute, and creating, new life, and creating, keeping your heart beating and keeping all of these things functioning. I don't think that that's all just from the external God source. I think that our own subconscious computer systems are doing this for us. So you think about that level of intelligence. It's a level of intelligence beyond our ability to even comprehend. I mean, trillions of chemical reactions going on every minute. Who can keep track of that? You'd have to have a supercomputer, And so I think that we are a supercomputer beyond our ability to understand inside. And so our ability to access all of that is very, very limited. I mean, think about it. We're born, we come into this world, our memories of our life before, wherever we were, those are totally wiped out, right? I like to call it a veil that is put over our minds. So we have no memories. We have total amnesia about where we were before. We don't know. All we know is this world. And unfortunately, as you know, we almost immediately start being lied to, right? By well-meaning people. And that's life on planet Earth. But
Santa's coming this Christmas, by the way.
yeah, exactly right. As well as all kinds of other things, like what we're capable of and what we can't do. And oh man. So it's so interesting that we have this, we're in this situation. And I believe there are absolutely divine reasons for this. We are here, I think, in a perfect environment for us to be able to make decisions for good or bad. What are we going to do? Are we going to choose light or dark? And we're free to choose light or dark. We can choose whatever it is we want. And at the end of our life, whether we've made good choices or bad choices, we learn either way, don't we? We learn, I remember when I turned 60, the most striking thing to me was looking back on my life and looking back on the lives of the people that I've known and seeing how small decisions made decades ago have played out, not only in my life, but also in the lives of these other people, right? We make these little decisions and, you make one decision and then suddenly that pathway is closed to you and now you're going down a different path, right? And at any individual moment, you've got almost an infinite number of choices that you can make. But as you make those decisions, then eventually you're kind of going down a certain path. So it's really interesting. One day, I had this experience that I'll try to share with you. I was 18 years old, and I was just sitting, just quietly meditating. And all of a sudden, I had this experience that lasted for about maybe 3 or 4 seconds. I don't think any longer than about 4 seconds. And I'll try to describe this. Have you ever been really, really homesick, Amrit?
In certain moments, yeah.
Yeah, certain moments. And I had too. But all of a sudden, I was instantaneously filled with this homesickness that was completely off the chart. Clear out of the solar system. I mean, it was unbelievable. And it was a homesickness to be back where I was before I came here. I think back where we all were, right? With God. And it lasted just for a few seconds, but it was so overwhelming and so powerful. It was like this window opened and then closed. And it wasn't that I could see anything or remember anything. The homesickness itself was so absolutely overwhelming that I can't even really describe it. And suddenly that window closed and it just left me reeling. And I understood from that a couple of things. I understood, and I know that these things are true, that we are just strangers here in this world, right? That's one thing. And the other thing is that it's a very, very good thing that we cannot remember where we were before we came here. Because if we could, I believe we would not be able to stand it in this world for 5 minutes. And I really believe that's true.
Hey there, Inspired Evolutionary. If you absolutely loved this, well then here's a full conversation with this guest on the Inspired Evolution podcast. Check it out now.